My first time in jail, I was a taxi cab driver at the time, and I was driving down the street, and there was a cop standing in the middle of the street for no obvious reason to me. And I learned out later he was holding a parking spot for his buddy. And so I asked him, did he want me for anything? He just ignored me. And I said, look, if you don't want me for anything, get out of my way. And so he came up to the cab and asked me to repeat myself, and I'd repeat it. So he yanked me out of the cab and told my customer, who I wanted as a witness, to be on his way lest he get charged for interfering with arrest. And so I was taken to jail, and he kneed me in the groin, and I was really in pain. I was initially charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, and when I got back from the doctor, another charge had been levied, assault and battery on the police officer. That was to provide cover for him. And so I spent a night in jail, and then the next time I went to jail was again, I was driving a taxi cab, and I came to pick up my wife. She was not my wife at the time; she was my girlfriend, at her sister's house, and they had a loud, rowdy party there. And the police came to the house. This is in North Philadelphia, and my wife's sister's husband, really big guy. He picked up two cops and threw them out on the street and sicked his German Shepherds on them. And so they called for backup and the arrest of all of them. And I asked the officer who was placed me on the arrest, I said, what are you arresting me for? I just got here. And so he says, we're arresting you for frequenting a disorderly house. And then the third time, I was married, and we're in Los Angeles, and I had an argument with my wife. And so I just got up and I walked out of the house, and around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, to walk off my anger. And I was walking along, and so the policeman stopped me. He asked me, what am I doing? And so I said, I'm taking a walk. He said, this far from home? He asked me where I live, and I said, I'm taking a walk. So he said, this far from home? I said, yes, I think you guys ought to walk once in a while yourselves. And so that remark made him call in the station to get, check my records. And it turned out, this was in Los Angeles, it turned out that about 4 or 5 years ago, from that time, I got a parking ticket that I didn't pay, and a warrant was issued for my arrest. And so they had to arrest me. And the worst thing about it is that I had to call my wife, who I just had an argument with, to come down and bail me out. I think the bail was something like $50 or $75, something like that. So,
did she come down to the station?
Yes, yeah, and I got a lecture too. This was a number of years ago, but one time I was traveling, and I had carry-on luggage, and in my carry-on luggage I had an eyeglass repair kit, and this TSA person told me I could take the screws, but I could not take the screwdriver. And I said, that's stupid as hell. I said, who ever heard of somebody hijacking an airplane with an eyeglass screwdriver? And so he said, wait here. And so his superintendent came up, and the superintendent asked me, and I repeated myself. He said, it's on the list. Either leave it here or you don't get on the plane. And so I would not have gotten on the plane, but the people that invited me had set up a banquet and things like that, and it would have been pretty awful if I hadn't shown up. But I just shown up. But I just don't travel commercially anymore, and now I just travel on the private plane. If people want to have me to give a talk, and it's a very costly proposition, I just will go by a private plane. I just won't deal with the TSA because I'm too old to go to jail, and I'm not as compliant as most of my fellow Americans. I had a whole lot of problems when I was in the Army. I was drafted in the Army. Sometimes I don't call it a draft. My labor services were confiscated by the United States government. This is 1959. And I was sent to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and without a very good orientation on the Southern way of life. And so I had some adjustment problems. And the adjustment problems led to my being court-martialed. And I won the court-martial. I made a jackass out of the people who court-martialed me. And I brought charges against this company commander who court-martialed me, and the charge was undue hardship on a person subject to your command. But before I could get the court-martial charges started, I was sent to Korea. And when I landed in Korea, you had to fill out these forms to give your race, your next notification of next of kin, and things like this. And where it said race, I put down Caucasian. And the chief warrant officer who was inspecting the forms, he would say, "Soldier, you made the mistake." And so I said, "I didn't make a mistake." And so he said, "You put down Caucasian." I said, "Yeah, I'm Caucasian." And so we went around and around. He said, "Why would we put down Caucasian?" I said, "Look, if I put down Negro, I get the worst job over here." I never changed the marking that I put down there, the checkoff that I put down for Caucasian, and he probably changed it. But I was a troublemaker when I was in the Army, a first-class troublemaker. I was sent to the motor pool and to work with trucks. And that was they gave blacks some menial jobs there. And so this officer told me to paint a truck. You paint the flatbed of the truck. And so I said, "The whole truck?" And so he said, "Yeah, the whole truck." And so I started painting the tires, I painted the windows, and guys are crowding around me and laughing. And so not the company commander, but this officer came up and said, "What was I doing?" And so I said, "I'm painting the whole truck." So he made me wash the paint off by solvent. And then I got another job washing trucks, and I put the hose inside the engine to wash the engine out. Because I told the guy there was a lot of grease and dirt in there. And then they kicked me out of the motor pool, and I was sent up to the lunchroom, the dining hall, to be the mop man. And I was kicked out of that job because the head chef caught me mopping off the meat table with the floor mop, and it was a horrendous sight. You know, the nasty water flowing over the sides. I was sent to the battalion headquarters to sweep up every day, and so it turned out that this corporal, he was getting discharged, and I asked the sergeant major, could I have his job? And so they laughed and they said, "You couldn't do it." And so I said, "Well, give me a chance." And so I typed out, he gave me something to type out, and I made some corrections, and he decided to give me a chance, and I became the head clerk of the battalion. And I did some things as head clerk, because I was in the field of communication, and I was the only black there in the field of communication. And they used to have separate dances on posts, dance for the white guys and dance for the black guys. So they would send a sergeant and some soldiers to town to get the girls to come out to the base. And so one time the sergeant called. He called up and said, "Can I speak to the sergeant major?" And I said, "Sergeant major's not here, but can I take a message?" He said, "Yeah, tell the sergeant major that I have plenty of nigger bus drivers, but no nigger NCOs." And so I said, "Yes, sir." And when the sergeant major came in, it turned out that the inspector general was from Washington, was doing an inspection of the post, and they had generals and colonels. And so I went over to the water fountain, and I hollered over to the sergeant major with the message. And so one of the colonels said, "Get that SOB up here," and they dressed him. They got him up there, and they raised hell with him, you know. So I did all kinds. I was a bit of a troublemaker.